Namaste, everyone. I would like to remind you that this is a silent conference, so please put on your headphones, please. Thank you. Namaste and welcome everyone. My name is Mansi Shah and I represent the 2.9 million poor self-employed women workers from the informal economy in India. These are the members of Self-Employed Women's Association, the single largest national trade union of poor self-employed women workers from the informal economy. Our members come from over 125 different trades. These are the street vendors, the construction workers, the waste recyclers, the agriculture workers, the salt pan workers, and so on. So I'm sure each one of you here in this room would have experienced the impact of climate shock sometime or other, especially heat waves. And most of us would have had some unique experiences that would have made us spring into climate action. For us at Seva, it was the myriad of challenges that our members face day in and day out in their lives and in their livelihoods. The women that I represent here are the poorest of the poor. We conducted an internal study with over 3,500 women from different trades across 18 states in India. And what we saw was that over 90% of these women had their livelihoods affected, with their incomes coming down to as much as 50% due to the heat waves. Over 74% children's education was impacted. 82% women said that they faced water insecurity for both drinking as well as for agriculture. 62% households were facing food insecurity, and over 38% of our women have started facing increased mental stress and gender-based violence. But what does these numbers mean? So let's see a small video on what does these numbers mean. So, can we please have the video?
આ હાથે રાંધવાનું, આ હાથે આવક લાવવાની, આ હાથે કામ કરવાનું, અને આ જ હાથ ગરમીના કારણે હાથ તપી જાય.
પૂર આવે ને તો બધું ધોવાતું દેખાય છે ને જ્યારે વાવાઝોડું આવે છે ને ત્યારે પણ બધું પતરાને બધું ઉડતું દેખાય છે. પણ જ્યારે ગરમી આવે છે ત્યારે ગરમી દેખાતી નથી, પણ ખાસ કરીને અનુભવીએ છીએ, અને એટલી અનુભવીએ છીએ ને કે આપણે પોતે પણ તો દાજતા હોઈએ, પણ બહેનો જે શ્રમજીવી બહેનો છે એની આખી આજીવિકા પણ બાળી નાખે છે.
અમારી ઉપર આ તાપના હિસાબે અમારી ઉપર સાલા પડી ગયા, અને અમારા રોજગારી ઉપર અમારે બધાને સાલા પડી ગયા.
So as we all saw in the video, most of the Women from the informal economy, they generally work outdoors or in workplaces with alarmingly low ventilation, and hence suffer from various physical ailments such as dehydration, urinary tract infection, kidney stones, dizziness, and even death. And this is all in addition to reduction in their income by 50%. Higher out of pocket medical expenses means that it further drains their savings, and also means that it has an impact on reducing the food security. And women having an intrinsic tendency of putting family first, it impacts their food and nutrition security and therefore their health. But what we have seen is that what we have seen at Seva is that these women, they just do not sit waiting for someone to come and support them. They have also been the first responders, adapters, and solution finders on day-to-day basis, using their own resources and technological know-how. Our members have understood the gravity of situation and have started taking actions, adaptive actions like drinking, keeping themselves hydrated when they are working by drinking buttermilk, lime water, melons, and so on, covering their roofs with reflecting paints, and so on and so forth. And therefore, what we have seen is that instead of us developing programs for climate action, if we support these women workers and strengthen their climate action, it will naturally and most effectively bring women center stage and enable more significant achievement on the climate front. We can do this by bringing visibility to the women and their climate action. At Seva, when we completed our 50 years, the message from our founder was very clear that the real celebration would be if we plan for Seva's 100 years of organizing. And if we want to be relevant to our members for the next 50 years, we need to address the most pressing challenges that all the members from all the trades are facing, which is climate change. Therefore, we launched the Building Cleaner Skies campaign, where 2.9 million women came together and resolved to work towards building clean air, clean water, clean land. The Cleaner Skies campaign works on three major pillars. One, what is climate change? Two, how does it impact the lives and livelihoods of our members? And three, what are the locally led adaptation and mitigation solutions that we can promote to strengthen the climate action and build the resilience of our members? But the campaign does not just stop at awareness and education. It also focuses on working with our members for designing their own solutions. Seva has set up a climate school where we train the young generation members of our young generation members as climate entrepreneurs. These women go door to door and do energy auditing and budgeting exercise to help households realize where they are spending majority of their resources and time in accessing energy. And we provide them with a menu of renewable energy solutions and green solutions which they can adopt, so that they can cut down on their carbon emissions, they can cut down on the spending on energy, as well as build their climate resilience. When 40% of the households in a village adopt 3 or more of these solutions, the village is termed as a green village. And we are also working with the government to identify these villages as green village and motivate and incentivize the villages also. Similarly, to help our members cope with the extreme heat, Seva piloted the parametric extreme heat insurance in 2023 with 21,000 members. But what we realized working with poor women is that insurance alone is not a sustainable solution. What we need is insurance plus plus. And therefore, along with the insurance, the parametric heat wave insurance, we also provided women with wraparound benefits that would help them in sustaining their livelihoods, continuing that livelihood activities during the extreme heat situation. Additionally, to build the resilience of our members and to enable them to adopt these kind of climate solutions and to stand back on their feet in case of climate shocks, we've also piloted an innovative pool of finance, what we call as the Livelihood Recovery and Resilience Fund. It's a pool of blended finance that has longer term moratorium, and most importantly, it reduces the vulnerability of women workers by enabling them to access immediate financing through innovative products like FLDGs, interest subvention, etc. In in the face of climate shocks. Generally, whenever there is a climate shock, the government declares a relief package, but the time between the disbursal of the relief package and the climate shocks often varies from 4 months to 7 months. And the poor women, when they have lost all their livelihood and productive resources, they cannot wait for 7 months to get back on their feet. The LRRF, the Livelihood Recovery and Resilience Fund, makes sure that the credit is available to the women within a span of 15 days so that women can restart their livelihood activities and stand back on their feet. Taking the learnings from the Livelihood Recovery and Resilience Fund, we are now working on scaling it up at a global level into the Global Climate Resilience Fund. And when we piloted the heat wave insurance and the Livelihood Recovery and Resilience Fund, what we realized was that one thing that is missing at all stages, whether it is regional, national, global, is data, gendered data. There is hardly any data available on women and the impact of climate on the women workers and their livelihoods. All the policies that are being designed are designed using data that is lab created, or that is, and therefore it is not relevant to the poor women, which constitutes 93% of India's workforce today. And therefore, we've partnered with Harvard Institute to also undertake a study. It is a study where we are measuring where the women are wearing wearable sensors for 24 hours, and we are capturing the impact of heat on their blood pressure, on their heartbeat, and the sleep patterns. At the same time, we are also having environmental sensors installed in the workplaces and homes. And this kind of data is helping in the study is in its nascent phases, but this kind of data helps in capturing the wet bulb temperature and its impact on the lives and livelihoods of the poor. And how do we use this data for designing insurance products, for designing material IMD notifications, for designing the policies? So what we believe is that women, if they are shown, if they are included in the decision making, in designing and in implementing of any kind of policies and programs, it is always going to be an inclusive and more effective and bottom-up strategy. I have my grassroots sister Meena Ben with me, who would like to share her little experience on the parametric heat insurance that we piloted. I would like to invite Meena Ben to come and share. Sorry, Meena Ben would be speaking in Gujarati, so I'll translate for her.
નમસ્તે, મારું નામ વિરમગામા મીના છે અને હું ઇન્ડિયન છું અને અગરિયા પરિવારથી છું.
I'm Meena Ben Viramgama from Surendranagar district in Gujarat, and I come from a salt farmers family.
તો જે આ ક્લાઇમેટ ચેન્જ થઈ રહ્યા છે, વાતાવરણમાં બદલાવ આવી રહ્યા છે, તો આ બહેનો ઉપર ખાસ કરીને ગામડાના બહેનો ઉપર ખૂબ જ માઠી અસર થાય છે. જેમ કે છેલ્લા 3-4 વર્ષથી અતિશય તાપ પડે છે, તેના લીધે અસંગઠિત કામદાર બહેનોના ધંધા રોજગાર ઉપર માઠી અસર પડી છે. તેમાં બીજું એમની બહેનોની આવક ઘટી ગઈ છે, ત્રીજું આરોગ્ય ઉપર અસર થઈ છે અને રોજગારીના મળતા માનસિક તણાવથી બહેનો તણાવ થઈ ગઈ છે એમ. અને
Since past 3-4 years, the heat has been increasing annually, and especially for the salt pan workers, where the temperatures go beyond 50 degrees Celsius, and the impact of the heat is drastic on the lives and livelihoods of these members. They are facing several physical challenges and problems such as dehydration and also skin rashes, and their livelihood is being impacted, their income is being impacted, and all this has a combined effect on their mental health also.
ત્રીજું કે બાળકોના શિક્ષણ ઉપર ખૂબ જ માઠી અસર પડી છે અને અતિશય તાપ હોવાના લીધે બાળકોના ભણતર ઉપર પણ અસર પડી છે, કેમ કે તાપ હોવાથી બાળકો સ્કૂલ જઈ શકતા નથી. ચોથું, આવક ઘટી જાય છે, વીજળીમાં અને બિલમાં વધારો થયો છે, કેમ કે પંખા અતિશય ગરમીના લીધે ચાલુ રાખવા પડે છે. આ બધી પરિસ્થિતિ સામે ટકી રહેવા માટે સેવા 2 વર્ષના તાપમાનના વીમા લેવામાં આવ્યા છે.
So, along with Impact on the members' lives and livelihoods. It's also impacting children's education as they cannot go to school in extreme heat situation, and we have to use more fans. We cannot. The poor women cannot afford air conditioning, but they have fans in their home, and the fans and lights have to be on for the entire day. And because of that, the electricity bills are rising, and that is also cutting down on their savings.
જ્યારે અમને સેવામાંથી તાપમાનના વીમા વિશે કહેવામાં આવ્યું ત્યારે અમને તો એવું હતું કે અમારા કામદાર બહેનોના વીમા હોય, પણ ના, અમને તો એવું જ હતું કે ખાલી માત્ર પૈસાવાળા માટે જ વીમા હોય છે. પણ સેવાનો ખાસ કરીને ખૂબ ખૂબ આભાર કે અમારા કામદાર શ્રમજીવી બહેનોના વીમા ઉતાર્યા.
So in 2023, when Seva first piloted the parametric heat wave insurance, and we started, I work as a grassroots leader, and I started creating awareness and education about the insurance amongst our members. And when I started going and telling our members about the heat wave insurance, the members were surprised. Can there be an insurance for us? We poor people, insurance is always something that only rich people can afford. There cannot be an insurance for the poor. But we explained them that this insurance is purely designed for poor women like us, and I'm really thankful to Seva for thinking about us and designing an insurance product like this.
દરેક જિલ્લામાં 42થી 45 સુધી તાપમાન જાય છે, સળંગ 4-5 દિવસ રહે છે, તો બહેનોના રોજગારી ઘટી જાય છે. તો આથી તેની સામે બહેનોને તેમના વીમા સામે 800 થી 2200 સુધીનું વળતર દેવામાં આવ્યું છે વીમા તરીકે.
So as per for the insurance, it's a parametric insurance, and therefore when the temperature crosses the historically predetermined temperature setting, the insurance starts a payout which is equivalent to the daily wages earned by the women when they are not able to work because of the heat.
આ વીમો ત્યારે દેવામાં આવ્યો જ્યારે બહેનોને કંઈ મજૂરી નહોતી, અને તાપમાનના વીમાની રકમ જ્યારે બહેનોને મળી ત્યારે 40% બહેનો એવા હતા જે પોતાના ઘરમાં જમવા માટે અનાજ કરિયાણાની વસ્તુ લીધી. 30% બહેનો પશુપાલન માટે ઘાસચારો લીધો, કેમ કે ઘાસચારો લેવાથી પશુઓને સમયસર ખોરાક આપી શકાય અને દૂધની આવક સળંગ ચાલુ રહે, તેનાથી રોજગારી ચાલુ રહે.
So when in the first year when we piloted the insurance product, the insurance did not trigger, and we did not get enough any payout. But as I said, insurance alone is not sustainable. It has to be when we are talking about informal sector poor women, it always has to be insurance plus. And where the wraparound benefits that we had given along with the insurance, like the cool water jugs or the cash benefit layer. It is that which helped women in sustain. Women use the water jugs to continue their livelihood activities during the extreme heat. For example, the street vendors and the construction workers. The women also started using the money, the cash layer that they got as a payout to buy fodder for their cattle, so that during the extreme heat the cattle can have enough food and continue giving milk, which is the main source of livelihood for the poor women.
અને આ વીમા અમે 21,000 બહેનોના વીમા લીધા છે, અને 30% બહેનો એવા હતા જેમને પોતાના ધંધામાં ઉપયોગમાં આવતા સાધનો વસાવ્યા, જેમ કે શાકભાજીના બહેનોએ ઠંડા પીણાના જગ લીધા, મીઠા કામદાર બહેનોએ રણમાં ઠંડુ પાણી મળે એ માટે 30 લિટરની ટાંકી આપવામાં આવી હતી. અમારા શ્રમજીવી બહેનો માટે આ પહેલો વીમો હતો જેમાંથી અમને વળતર મળ્યું, અને વીમાનો રકમ પણ 200 રૂપિયા હતી, જે અમે 2 હપ્તા એટલે કે 125 2 હપ્તા કરીને અમે વીમાની રકમ ભરી હતી. અને આ વીમો અમને બહુ જ સારો લાગ્યો, અને અમારા માટે કામદાર બહેનો માટે બહુ જ વીમો ઉપયોગી નીવડ્યો.
At Seva, we always strongly believe that poor do not need charity, and therefore women contributed towards this insurance. This was not given to them in charity. Every woman paid a premium, although she cannot afford the premium in one shot. So she saved one day of her saving and contributed it towards the premium of the insurance. For us, the salt pan workers, we got a concrete water tank. Kitla liter nahi? 300 liter water tank. For the salt pan workers, we migrate to the desert for 8 months in the year, and we live in makeshift tents, and therefore there is no access to water, sanitation or anything. And so these water tanks which helped us, we generally use a plastic tank, but the water starts boiling in that plastic tank, and therefore through this insurance, the wraparound benefit, we got a concrete water tank, which we buried underground, and so the water remained cool, and it was we were able to drink it. Otherwise, there was no difference whether we are drinking tea or we are drinking water. And so I'm really thankful to Seva for piloting this insurance, and I'm really sure that we will continue to scale it up so that more and more of our members are able to benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would now like to invite Jorge Pai to lead us next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mansi Ben and Mina Ben, for this. Quite powerful. As one of your members said, extreme heat is not only bringing blisters to our bodies, but also to our lives. And so that's a powerful message. But what we wanted to do in this panel today, and I'll start inviting the panelists to move in, both Neil, Senke, and Mansi, while I introduce them, is we wanted to focus this session on solutions and the power of ingenuity and moving away, turning around the tables from being just a victim of climate change to being an entrepreneur of climate change, and how you actually figure out ways to solve the impacts that climate change is putting on your lives. And the examples that we just heard and the testimonies that we just heard from Seva members, and it's quite powerful, and that's exactly what we want to do in this panel today. So let me sit down, and we're going to start. Okay, so I'll introduce the panel now. First of all, welcoming all of you for this session today. And for the panel, we have Neil Dadwadkar, who is a Climate Impact Associate at the Climate Innovation for Adaptation and Resilience, or CIFAR Alliance. Senke Kreft, who is Executive Director of the Munich. Sorry. He's Senke Kreft is I'm going to start again. So Neil Dadwadkar is a Climate Impact Associate at the Climate Innovations for Adaptation and Resilience, or CIFAR Alliance. Senke Kreft is Executive Director of the Munich Climate Insurance Initiative and Deputy Head of the Risk Adaptation Department at the United Nations University and Institute for Environment and Human Security. Man, that's a long one. And of course, Mansi Shah, Senior Technical Coordinator for Seva. So again, as I said, we would like to focus on solutions. That's the main reason why we created this hub, the Resilience Hub. And I've been, I have had the pleasure as Atlantic Council Climate Resilience Center to have worked with Seva on this first parametric pilot that we did in 2023. And so the power, again, of ingenuity and looking to turn the tables around and not only focus on the as a victim, but also find the solutions. And so with that, let me go into the questions. We have about 15 minutes to go into this conversation. So I'll start with Senke, yes. So let's focus on the solutions part of the equation, as I said. And if you can share with us perspectives of implementing micro and meso-level insurance products in the Pacific and the Caribbean region. So let's expand out of India and see what's happening around the world as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jorge, for introducing me. And I have to say, for me, it's also coming a little bit full circle, because I was doing a personal fundraiser when I cycled to COP, 2018 to Katowice on women-focused climate risk insurance in India. And so now we're actually talking examples that are in the market and that are making a difference for livelihoods. So I really feel a bit touched about that. But I want to talk about climate risk insurance solutions that we are also implementing. So I work for MCI, Munich Climate Insurance Initiative, and we are focusing on policy elements, we are focusing on risk understandings, but we're also looking into concrete solutions on the ground. And for more than 12 years, we are now implementing specifically in the Caribbean, but also in the Pacific regions with partners, climate risk insurance solutions. And so this is together in the Pacific with UNCDF, UN Capital Development Fund, and in the Caribbean with CRIF SPC, which is the regional risk pool in the Caribbean, providing insurance cover to countries. And we are mostly focusing on climate vulnerable populations, so looking at individuals, smallholder entrepreneurials from the agriculture sector, but also tourism sector, but also social welfare beneficiaries, people with disabilities, and other climate vulnerable groups. And the insurance cover that is provided is mostly parametric, and we are looking also at different perils, of course, spanning different climate risks. So, for example, heavy rain, tropical storm risk, but also drought cover in some geographies. And the overall aim of this parametric insurance cover is to provide a very quick payout in times of financial emergency, and with that prevent people from doing erosive coping to these climate risks. So kind of preventing them to not go into risking their long-term developments. Doing this, I also have to say, is not an easy task. So we've faced quite a bit of challenges in the last 12 years, and maybe I want to say a few of those. We also summarized and collected these challenges there on our website, and I can also give the publications to the people or link you to these publications. So one is that there is really a lack of understanding on all levels. So we see that on the supply side, we see that on the demand side. We see it at the insurers as well, because these are new lines of business for the insurance industry, especially in developing countries. But also the understanding of decision makers that are often needed to roll out these kind of products. And then, of course, also with the beneficiaries. I think we will talk about that as well. For people to really understand what is the benefit of insurance, that this is not necessarily an investment, but it provides you some kind of coverage, and with that also peace of mind. But you don't necessarily need to expect to get some money back out of an insurance scheme. And due to these challenges, we actually work with different aggregators. So that's like one way to go around that. Both with like group associations, but also sometimes with individual level, because not everyone is organized in a, say, cooperative or so. So I think we have to look at both distribution channels. Another lessons learned that we have is also to work actively with the government. So, for example, in the case of Fiji, the government is exempting VAT on the insurance cover, and this is a very good thing in terms of the insurance premium, reducing the overall insurance premium. So that's one lesson learned. Then there's also the idea to connect it to the national level social protection systems, so that the government, for example, is paying for social welfare beneficiaries. So we again have the example from Fiji, where this is done over the past 2 years. And then the second element is also that of regulation. So usually we work in a regulatory sandbox approach, and this is providing also then the enabling environment to have these type of products. So that's also important. So you have to actively engage the insurance supervisor in order to roll out these products successfully. And maybe then another element is technology, clearly, to basically streamline the use of technology and across the whole value chain and with the different actors. And so many of our products are working with, for example, mobile wallets to also, again, cut the costs for these kind of small insurance cover that are offered at the end of the day. Maybe as a kind of summary, I want to say that often I see that in the space, people are mostly focusing on product development, and I think that's a bit misplaced. So what I want to say is we need to really look at the ecosystem. So working also with like different groups and stakeholders, not only in the product development, that's important, but in the whole development and also rollout of the program. So whole ecosystem approach, not only looking at the product development, would be my key lessons learned out of these 12 years of experience.
Thank you, Senke. And this is a great segue to Neil. because insurance is, as any other financial instrument, is not a silver bullet. Like you need a holistic approach to addressing financial needs. At the same time, you need for those instruments to have additional elements that are not only financial, like Mansben was mentioning insurance plus plus, or Senke just now saying you need a holistic approach to a solution, not only just the actual financial instrument itself. So with that, let me pass to Neil with that segue, which is good, which is the Alliance focuses on ecosystem solutions. That's what we're talking about, and it's trying to address issues from knowledge building to supporting small businesses thrive in the face of climate change through financial innovations. Could you first tell us more about how the Alliance operates and the financial innovations it is testing to build the resilience of vulnerable communities in the Global South?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ore. So to introduce CFAR Alliance, this was started 3 years ago. It's a coalition of public and private sector organizations. So from the private sector, PayPal, MasterCard, and MetLife Foundation, and from the public sector, UKAID, USAID, came together to identify this innovation gap in creating adaptation solutions. And we realized that there is a severe dearth of very early stage startups that are not palatable for traditional investments. And so to create this very early stage startups, we needed to have the innovation ecosystem solutions. So we identified 3 areas where we need to launch sort of these innovation startup ecosystems. So for the green wave, which is based on regenerative agriculture and nature-based solutions, so we launched that wave in Africa. Then 2 blue waves, which is for ocean economy and solutions based on ocean economy. So one in Mexico and Caribbean and other in Africa as well. And the hope is that also to extend this to something like a red wave, which would help with heat resilient solutions. And we're trying to fundraise that in India. So, and coming back to also the question of equity. So we noticed that a lot of, for example, gender in climate finance, only 2% of all climate finance goes to women-led startups. So making sure that we incorporate aspects of gender equity. And so all the 3 waves that we've launched so far, more than 50% of the founders are women. So that's something very distinguishing from what we see across other innovation ecosystems. And also locally led adaptation solutions. So all of these founders, over 30 founders that you see across these 3 waves are local people, because they undergo a 6-month to 1-year fellowship program to create solutions that are palatable for traditional investments. And so that's another factor that is distinguishing and equitable from what you see across. Yeah.
Thank you, Neil. That was quite comprehensive. And again, moving into solutions, let's go to the next question for Senke. So on the financial education space for vulnerable communities and multi-level partnership strategy, what is the experience that you have from UNU EHS?
Okay. I mean, we also have the title innovation in this event, and I think actually innovation is the implementation of creativity. And I think this is what we actually need when we do this type of education, financial literacy that is needed to successfully roll out the products. So maybe I can give you some examples of what we've done, but I'm also eager to listen how other groups are doing it, because I think it's one of the keys. So for example, in our Caribbean work, partners were using street plays and local Creole language to actually explain also the benefits of insurance. So people, as I said, they don't understand necessarily the benefits of insurance. So that is like one of the needs, or one of the ways to do it. In the Pacific, we worked mostly with like targeted videos and audios, working again also then with the aggregators, because they already have the relationship to the customer or the client, so to say. And this is again another way, but it was quite an effort. I think in total we trained more than 40,000 people to make sure that there is like the rollout possible. And then I know also that other groups, for example, use gamification approaches specifically for rollout. So these are just some of the ideas, linking it again to the theme of innovation, to really reach this last mile, which is really necessary to reach the target group.
Thank you, Sanke. And just to start closing with a panel and open it to the audience. So Neil, let's dive a bit deeper into insurance solutions because you've been also starting to test that. How is your approaching this for communities as well as SMEs, small and medium enterprises?
Yeah, so MetLife Foundation within CFAR Alliance is leading a working group on launching a product that that has two factors that are distinguishing from traditional insurance products. So one is parametric versus indemnity-based, and then second, what Meenaben was referring to, what if we could provide advance payouts before a climate disaster strikes or extreme heat event so that fatalities are reduced and also potentially injuries as well. And so that's another advances that can make in terms of this traditional insurance. And when this early warning systems for all, this initiative was launched at last COP, and when this initiative is integrated in the Global South, hopefully by 2026, I think these insurance products can be scaled to a large extent.
Excellent. Thank you, Neil. To close with Mansi Ben, so you share with us the experience that you've been going through with testing this parametric and other kind of financial solutions, the fund itself. What are the challenges to scale those up? Like, if you want to move from the 21,000 to the 46,000 last year to 500,000 members, you mentioned data, but what other challenges you might want to share? I know that we're focusing on solutions, but in order to make this solution more powerful, we need to look into the challenges to actually crack them down. So, Mansi.
Thank you, Ripai. And I feel that, as I said, and also as Meenaben was mentioning, insurance alone is not a sustainable solution to addressing the heat waves. It has to be combined along with insurance plus, especially when we are looking at poor informal sector women workers. It always has to, like in the first year, we piloted the wraparound benefits, and the second year, although the insurance product itself did not trigger, it was these wraparound benefits that helped women to continue their livelihood activities and sustain. So when we are designing any kind of product, as Senke said, that product development alone is not important, but when we are looking at product development, that time also what we are seeing is, in general, all insurance products are being developed looking at the formal sector in mind. But when 93% of the workforce in the countries of Global South is in the informal economy, they have to be brought into the discussion on the design and development of the product. The second thing is about, as you very rightly pointed, about the holistic approach, the ecosystem. We did a lot, as Meenaben mentioned. Women have this fear that insurance is not something for us. So how do you remove that? How do you change that mindset? And therefore, there is a lot of awareness and education needed for the distributors. So SEWA did a large-scale education and training program for our grassroots leaders on how do you convince women to adopt these kind of insurance products. What are the questions that can come from members? How do you address those questions? What is the difference between a parametric and an indemnity insurance? A grassroots leader who is herself semi-literate or illiterate, she has never heard the word parametric in her life. So how do you simplify these terms? How do you make them understand first? The distributors, how do you make them understand? And then you go into the grassroots, and they would then. And again, the third thing is that it has to be a bottom-up approach. When the grassroots leaders or the distributors, they come from the community themselves, and when they are explaining the importance of this product, the women feel less intimidated. They feel confident that if she, who comes from my same community, and if she has understood this product and she is promoting this product, which means that she believes in it, and she being one of us, it might actually work for us. So these are some of the things we need to focus on, bringing in women into the design and implementation. We need to work on awareness and education. And the third thing is, it has to be a bottom-up inclusive approach.
Thank you, Mansi, Ben. And with that, I want to thank the panelists, but your job is not yet done. You still have 10 more minutes to be sitting here with us and be grilled. No, sorry, be asked by the audience any questions they might have. And the audience also feel free to share some experiences. If you've been working in this area of financial solutions and innovations, more than happy to join the panel. You can join from where you're sitting. But so any questions, any raise hands? I see a lot of smiles, but not raise hands. So please. And please introduce yourself as well.
Thank you. My name is Tom. I work for Give Directly in Malawi. And we do cash transfers for people that have been affected by shocks and living in poverty. Very much intrigued. I think cash is also an innovation. And one of the areas that we've been working on is anticipatory action using cash. So I'm intrigued in terms of the concept of leveraging insurance as part of anticipatory action. So just curious as to some of the thought that's gone around that in terms of what kind of situations would you be able to use insurance in an anticipatory manner, and how does the market, especially the supply side, react to that?
Any panelists wants to take that one?
I can have a try. So anticipatory insurance, I think, indeed is a really interesting field, and not only a concept, but we also apply it. So in the context of our program in the Pacific, we have one anticipatory insurance product in the market, again for tropical storm risks, which pays out like part of the premium, part of the payout ahead of the event. And of course, there are many benefits to early action. I think I don't have to tell you about that. There are also challenges. I mean, it's putting pressure on the payout process quite clearly because it needs to be that timely. And in terms of the supply side, I think the challenge is not so much when we talk about parametric insurance, because in parametric insurance there is a clear calculation based on it. It's not an indemnity product that we would look at. So I want to say that through parametric insurance approaches, there are actually options to also include anticipatory insurance or components of anticipatory insurance in your insurance product. So we have some good experience, of course, also looking at further upscale in the future.
Thank you, Sanke. And please feel free the other panelists just to jump in.
Hi, everyone. So my name's Alice Charles. I'm from a company called Arup, and we have a global strategic partnership with the Resilient Cities Network. And one of the things that they've been doing, working with their CROs and indeed Howden at the moment, and I think they're interested in other insurance players being involved, is setting up an urban fellowship. So actually they're seconding resources in from the insurance sector into cities who lack capacity, and that is a real issue with cities. So my question is, given this issue of capacity with all levels of government, not just cities, is just of other innovative solutions that you are seeing that governments are employing elsewhere in the world to try and deal with this capacity issue as it relates to insurance and wider finance?
I can speak to, I know about this initiative, the 100 Resilient Cities, and I used to work at the city of San Diego on the climate action plan, so can share my perspective on that. The challenge was the continuity. So when the Rockefeller funding ran out, there was no means to continue this program, and so I think governments can be a good substitute, but as you see, there's been changing policies with administrations.
So I know Rockefeller it's no longer 100 Resilient Cities initiative, it's the Resilient Cities Network. My question's not about that, it's about the partnerships that their CROs have with the Howden Group at the moment, who have this urban fellowship, and they're seconding resources into the cities to try and build capacity. So my question relates to any other innovative initiatives that's, either seconding resources or supporting governments at all levels, national, regional, local, in overcoming this capacity issue, which they do have as it relates to both insurance and more widely as it relates to finance?
I'm not sure if I can talk about innovation in this space, but through our project partner, for example, in the Caribbean, CRIF has a special dedicated education program for government officials, also realizing that this is a real bottleneck. Governments need to understand what the product is about on the sovereign level. Also, city officials need to understand that. CRIF also has special product lines, for example, for electric utility companies. I can also say why this is even more important maybe than on the individual or micro scale is that also in the sovereign space or in the city space, we're not talking about regulated insurance products. So there's no consumer protection in this regard. So that actually means we need to underpin this by good cost-benefit analysis, for example. And so, just to say, importance of the topic. Other actors, I think, also identified this as a bottleneck and are also putting resources into it. And maybe my last point is we see this with CRIF, which has grown, I think, in terms of relevance, providing insurance to countries since, I think, 2007, roughly. They have a mandate as development and resilience insurer. So they're owned by the countries. And I think this is also important to have these type of insurers with like mutual insurers or social insurers that actually have the mandate and then also trusted to also run education campaigns and things like that.
And to add to the capacity building solution, a program that comes to mind is the Climate Corps that the federal government in the US just launched. And there's also an analogous private sector EDF Climate Corps, where fellows go work with the cities for a year or so to help with capacity building.
Just to add, we don't have a kind like a capacity building program, but at SEWA we always believe that we never run parallel programs, and therefore wherever there is an initiative from which we have some learnings, we always share the same with the government, the planning commission, and the design the body in the government that designs and implements solution. So on the same lines, we did share all the learnings that I just shared here from the insurance pilot. We've also shared the same with the government to be considered as taking a parametric insurance as a part of social protection mechanism. And just to add one point to Tom, you had asked about the anticipatory use of insurance. So taking the learnings from our experience working with the poor, we've seen that it's not just heat waves that impact the women, but it's also the climate shocks are increasing. So just as the heat waves were receding, our members had to face cyclones, severe cyclones, and which resulted into flash floodings. And then on top of it, there are always unseasonal rains. So climate shocks are going to increase. So when we are designing the product, we need to be much more creative and also anticipate these kind of variety and diverse kind of climate shocks and include them. And therefore, in the next phase of our pilot, we are trying to bundle up, like in addition to parametric heat insurance, how do you bundle it with climate catastrophic insurance, which covers the cyclones, the unseasonal rains, the flash floods, and so on.
Thank you, Mansi. So we have time for one half question. Going once, going twice. Okay, so we'll close then the panel. Thank you so much for the panelists. A round of applause, please. Thank you, and you can take your seat if you want. You can also stay in front. But we're gonna now invite. I'm delighted to invite Marty Durbin, who is Senior Vice President for Policy at the United States Chamber of Commerce, to share his closing remarks and discuss what the economic impact of investing ahead of the next crisis could mean for communities. So thank you, Marty.
All good? Can we hear? Okay, great. Again, thank you, Jorge. I want to thank the Resilience Hub, the Global Resilience Partnership, and of course the Atlantic Council for inviting the U.S. Chamber to be part of the conversation today. I don't have a lot to add to the great speakers we had today, but I did just give a few closing remarks. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, we and our members have focused for years on the need to build smart, modern, resilient infrastructure in order to address some of the pre-disaster mitigation opportunities and resilience and how important that is. So while our speakers today, I think, did a great job of focusing on the human need and addressing the human need and clearly stating that insurance is not the only option here, I think what we've done over the last year, we've worked with the U.S. Chamber Foundation and Allstate, which is a major property and casualty insurance company in the United States, to demonstrate the economic benefits of making those investments ahead of time. And to cut to the bottom line, what we found, again, this is all just within the United States, but I think it very clearly is applicable elsewhere, that for every dollar that we spend in pre-disaster mitigation and resilience, we can save up to $13 on the back end. And I'll explain in a moment. What we did was we modeled 25 different cities and a variety of disasters. Category 4 hurricane in Miami, wildfires in California, tornadoes in the Midwest, all different types of disasters. And what we found is that, not only, so for that $1 you spend in advance to make sure you're building up the infrastructure to be able to withstand those kinds of disasters, not only will you not be spending money on the cleanup and recovery, at least you won't be spending as much, you will still have some cleanup and recovery, but the really important point, and to focus on, is that you don't lose the economic activity. So, people don't lose their jobs. People don't move away from the city or the region because there are no jobs there, and you maintain the tax base and other economic activity. So again, it's just I think a lesson that we learned. We're facing major issues in the United States where, whether you're looking at states like Florida or California that do have lots of natural disasters, insurance companies are unable to remain in those markets, so that homeowners and others are, in some cases, unable to get insurance, or it is really, really expensive. So again, we were focusing more on the property and casualty. Much of the conversation was about the human need, but obviously they go hand in hand. There's a lot of human suffering after a natural disaster as well. So again, we just wanted to share those results. We do have a report out. It's called the preparedness payoff. I apologize. The alliteration was getting stuck in my head. The preparedness payoff, just to show that, again, for spending some money on resilience and pre-disaster mitigation, you really do have a savings on the back end. Happy to share that with you. And again, just want to thank Jorge and everyone and all the speakers today for the conversation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And for those that remain until the end, we have a perk, like a prize that we're going to show right now on the screen. While you were all talking, we had a cartoonist, and I'll pass it to him so he can go ahead with his... No? I thought he was going to talk. Okay, well, that's a cartoonist. And that's a cartoon. Oh, there you go.
I'm just going to display the cartoons that I've drawn during the session. Here's the first one. For the sake of convenience, I'm going to read out the captions as well. The good news is that it's now called the Great Financial Gap and not the Great Financial Abyss. Here's the second one. The heat is always on for the informal sector, figuratively and literally. Here's the third one. We've got a private funder and a grassroots worker playing tennis, and she says, "Can someone please lower the net?" referring to governmental hurdles. And the final one, based on Mansi's presentation and Seva's presentation, salt work is a lot sweeter when aid is called insurance and not charity. If you all can let me know which two of the four drafts you've liked the best, I will furnish them and keep them ready for use by all of you participants and organizations. Thank you, everyone.